In this authoritative and comprehensive video presentation, I will meticulously detail, employing biblical scripture and enlightening historical texts, the connection between the lineage of the venerable Abraham and the nations we identify today with and refer to as the West. The profound covenant forged between God and Abram around 4,000 years ago, who was subsequently renamed as Abraham, encapsulated promises of monumental birthright that were foretold to culminate in immense national prominence during the end times. A vital component of this divinely predicted future was the proliferation of Abraham's descendants into several 100 million people, ultimately evolving to become the most dominant and unparalleled group of nations on a global scale during that period, specifically leading up to the highly anticipated second coming of Jesus. This video presentation promises to shed unprecedented light on this historical narrative through an unswerving blend of theological understanding and historical knowledge. We read about this covenant first in Genesis 12, 1-3, which reads, "Now the Lord had said to Abram, Get out of your country, from your family, and from your father's house, to a land that I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse him who curses you, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed." Within God's statement to Abram are two promises. The first is that God would make from him a great nation. Now when God says something will be great, then it will be something of great significance. Secondly, God tells Abraham that his blessings will be so great that they will overflow to all the families of the earth. The blessings of national greatness given to Abraham were called the birthright blessings because they were passed on to successive generations as a right of their birth. In this video, we will see how the birthright blessing was passed from Abraham to Isaac to Jacob, and then to Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. Subsequently, God conveyed to Abraham a promise of immense significance. He assured Abraham that his lineage would expand exponentially, populating the earth in vast numbers. God declared, "I will make your descendants as numerous as the dust of the earth, such that if one could count the particles of dust on the earth, then they might also count your descendants." Genesis 13:16. At the age of 99, Abraham received further enlightenment from God, who elaborated on the previously made promises, revealing their comprehensive and perpetual nature. God proclaimed, "I will make you exceedingly fruitful, and I will make nations of you, and kings shall come from you. And I will establish my covenant between me and you and your descendants after you throughout their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto you and to your descendants after you." Genesis 17, verses 6 and 7. Through this declaration, God underscored the everlasting nature of his covenant, indicating that it encompassed not just the emergence of a singular great nation, but the emergence of multiple nations coming from Abraham's lineage. God intended to shape all history through his promises to Abraham's descendants of building a great nation, one that would dominate the world in the time before Christ's second coming, which we shall see. Another would have significant influence over much of the rest of the world. Abraham's grandson Jacob, later known as Israel, was the patriarch of 12 sons who established the 12 tribes of Israel. Upon his journey to Egypt for a reunion with his son Joseph, Jacob, under divine inspiration, passed down the birthright blessing to Joseph's 2 sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. While all the tribes of Israel were destined to evolve into significant nations, it was specifically Ephraim and Manasseh who were bestowed with the birthright to become a company of nations and a singular great nation, respectively. Just before Jacob died, he called his sons and said, "Gather together, that I may tell you what shall befall you in the last days." Genesis 49, 1. The promises of global greatness to the descendants of Joseph would occur in the last days, the time leading up to the second coming of Jesus Christ. Jacob foretold that Joseph's 2 sons would develop into 2 powerful entities, separate yet fraternal nations of significant stature. This prophecy was marked by a promise of unmatched global prominence. It foretold that Manasseh's offspring would ascend as a formidable singular nation, embodying one aspect of God's promise. Concurrently, Ephraim's progeny were destined to realize the promise through the establishment of a company of nations, achieving a level of global supremacy unparalleled in historical records. Genesis 48:19. The language in this prophecy shows that the blessings of burgeoning population, fabulous wealth, power, and military dominance were to be fulfilled on a global scale in the last days. God inspired Jacob to get quite specific about the characteristics to look for in the nations that would fulfill the promises made to Abraham, his grandfather. And the promise of national greatness would not be limited to a small corner of the world. The Almighty will bless you with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lies beneath, blessings of the breast and of the womb. The blessings of your father have excelled the blessings of my ancestors, up to the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph. Genesis 49:25-26. Several centuries subsequent to Jacob's vision, his progeny, having grown to exceed 3 million in number, emerged from Egyptian bondage and established themselves in Canaan, thereby realizing the initial phase of his dream. Yet the territory they claimed was modest in comparison to the expansive domains of the Egyptian Empire and those of other leading empires of the time. But God had promised them an even larger, more encompassing territory than just Canaan. After the Israelites were already settled in Canaan, during the reign of David, we find an interesting declaration in 2 Samuel 7:10 where God declared, "Moreover, I will appoint a place for my people Israel, and will plant them, that they may dwell in a place of their own, and move no more. Neither shall the children of wickedness afflict them any more, as beforetime." This pledge to establish Israel permanently in their own land came after the Israelites were already residing in Canaan at that time. Reinforcing this promise, the prophet Isaiah later echoed God's enduring commitment in Isaiah 14, verse 1. "The Lord will have compassion on Jacob. Once again he will choose Israel and will settle them in their own land. Foreigners will join them and unite with the descendants of Jacob." But notice that God clarified the national greatness in Jacob's dream. In Genesis 28:14 we read, "Also your descendants shall be as the dust of the earth. You shall spread abroad to the west and the east, to the north and the south. And in you and in your seed all the families of the earth shall be blessed." They were to become as numerous as the dust of the earth, and were to spread far abroad to the entire earth. Again, we need to understand that this birthright promise would not be fulfilled among the people of the small kingdom of Israel in ancient times. Rather, the fulfillment would be vastly greater, yet still among the same peoples of the house of Israel, though much later in history, when Israelites would dwell around the world. The biblical promise of transforming the 10 tribes of Israel into a vast nation and assembly of nations, extending throughout the world, did not materialize during ancient times. Following the zenith of their power under Solomon's reign, the Israelite tribes fractured into 2 rival kingdoms upon his demise. These were the northern kingdom, known as Israel, and the southern kingdom, referred to as Judah. The northern kingdom, comprising 10 tribes and now home to approximately 6 million people, was primarily led by the tribes of Ephraim and Manasseh. These 2 tribes assumed the collective designation Israel, a name conferred upon them in Genesis 48 verse 16, underscoring their leading role within the kingdom. Conversely, the southern kingdom, known as Judah, was primarily under the leadership of the tribe of Judah, which included members from the tribes of Benjamin and Levi, and is the lineage from which the term Jews is derived. Over the course of more than 2 centuries, these kingdoms, both descendants of Jacob, were separate nations, often engaging in conflict with one another without ever achieving reunification. This historical context highlights a crucial distinction. While all Jews are Israelites, descendants of Jacob, not all Israelites are Jews, reflecting a broader ethnic diversity within the ancient Hebrew populations. Both of these small Middle Eastern states disappeared off the map in ancient times. First, Israel was taken into captivity through invasions by the Assyrian Empire, one in 733 BC and another in 722 BC because of their many sins, as 2 Kings 17:23 tells us. The Lord removed Israel out of his sight, so Israel was carried away from their own land to Assyria, as it is to this day. Never returning to their homeland, they became known to history as the lost 10 tribes of Israel. Nonetheless, God's assurances of national greatness to Israel remained unrevoked. The kingdom of Judah, repeating Israel's sins, was conquered and exiled by the Babylonian Empire in 586 BC. Only a small group of exiles of the tribes of Judah, Benjamin and Levi returned from Babylon to set up the politically weak provinces where Jesus Christ's ministry took place, as you will find recorded in Nehemiah 11 verses 3 to 36. However, 600 years later, after Jesus' crucifixion and 2 disastrous rebellions against Rome from AD 66 to 73 and 132 to 135, Jewish power was shattered until 1948. The 1948 establishment of the Jewish state as Israel introduced significant confusion regarding the historical and biblical distinction between Israel and Judah. This decision diverged from expectations, including those of President Harry Truman, who, along with his advisors, anticipated a name reflective of the Jewish tribe of Judah, such as Judea. This naming has led to widespread misunderstandings among Christians, particularly in interpreting biblical prophecies. The term Judah specifically refers to the Jewish people, descendants of the tribe of Judah, as mentioned in scriptures like Zephaniah 2 and Zechariah 12 and 14. In contrast, Israel in a birthright sense relates to the descendants of Manasseh and Ephraim, foretold to become a nation and a company of nations. The choice to name the modern state Israel has thus blurred the lines between these distinct identities, affecting the interpretation of prophecies that differentiate between Israel and Judah, and leading to a conflation of the modern state with all biblical references to Israel. We see then that these birthright promises of national greatness for Israel were never fulfilled by Israel in the past, because God intended them for the last days right before Christ returns. After Israel was taken into Assyrian captivity, they disappear from history and became known as the lost tribes of Israel. They may have been lost from history, but they were not lost to God, who is faithful to fulfill his promises of national greatness. Around 610 BC, the 10 tribes of Israel, alongside the Medes and Persians, overthrew the Assyrian rule and achieved their liberation from captivity. The question then arises, where did the tribes of Israel go after their release from captivity, and how did they grow over the next 2 millennia into this most influential and powerful group of nations? Insightful details emerge from the apocalyptic text of 2 Esdras 13 verses 41 to 45. Look what it says. The 10 tribes of Israel took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen, and go forth into a further country, where never mankind dwelt, that they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them, and held still the flood, till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely, of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth. This passage highlights the tribe's collective decision to seek a new homeland, far from the influence of other nations, where they could faithfully adhere to their statutes, a commitment they struggled to maintain in their own land. Their remarkable journey through the Euphrates, guided and protected by divine interventions, led them to Arsareth, a journey taking a year and a half, marking a pivotal moment in their quest to fulfill God's promises. The migration of the 10 tribes of Israel westward across the Caucasus Mountains and into Europe presents a compelling case for their direct lineage to the Celts, who emerged into Western Europe around the same time and place. The journey through the Caucasus Mountains, which is thought to have given rise to the term Caucasians for these tribes, aligns remarkably with the appearance of the Celts in historical records. This timing is not merely coincidental, but suggests a profound connection, indicating that the tribes of Israel and the Celts share the same heritage. The convergence of their migration paths and timelines strongly supports the theory that these ancient peoples, known by different names across different regions, were indeed one and the same, navigating through challenging terrains to find new homelands. This evidence compellingly argues for a shared identity between the tribes of Israel and the Celts, rooted in their common journey across the Caucasus Mountains into Europe. The Celtic population, initially numbering in the millions, expanded exponentially as they migrated in successive waves toward the west and northwest. Their journey took them to regions such as Galatia, Ephesus, Corinth, Thessalonica, Philippi, Colossae, and reaching as far as what is today known as Hallstatt, Austria, and Neuchâtel, Switzerland. This migration led to the Celts' eventual dominance over the cultural and social landscapes of northern and western Europe. The diverse groups collectively referred to as Celts, including the Angles, Saxons, Jutes, Vandals, Danes, Normans, Cimmerians, Scythians, Gauls, Lombards, Belgae, Danaui, Macedje, Milesians, Massilia, Sarmatians, Germani, Goths, and Franks, constitute the foundational ancestry of modern Europeans and Americans. Moreover, these groups have played a pivotal role in shaping the trajectory of global Christianity, establishing themselves as its central pillar. Years later, Flavius Josephus, a renowned Jewish historian from the time of Jesus, noted that Israel had indeed migrated to that area when he said, "The 10 tribes are beyond the Euphrates until this day, and are an immense multitude, whose numbers cannot be estimated." This statement underscores the enduring mystery and significant scale of the tribe's diaspora, linking their migration with pivotal developments in ancient European history. Many biblical texts foretold the widespread dispersion of the 10 tribes of Israel. Deuteronomy 28 verse 64 vividly anticipates their scattering across the globe. It reads, "For the Lord will scatter you among all the nations from one end of the earth to the other. There you will worship foreign gods that neither you nor your ancestors have known, gods made of wood and stone." This theme is also mirrored in the book of Hosea in chapters 8 and 9, portraying the tribe's assimilation and identity loss amidst foreign nations. Such narratives predict the dilution of their distinct cultural and religious essence as they merge into diverse societies. Ezekiel 12 verses 15 and 16 contributes to this narrative, suggesting that despite their dispersal, the Israelites would remain cognizant of God's dominion. This suite of prophecies paints a picture of a diaspora that not only spans continents and centuries, but also signifies the tribe's integration into the global cultural tapestry. Despite their apparent deletion from historical records, the 10 tribes have never escaped divine surveillance. Amos 9 verse 9 uses the analogy of grain meticulously sifted yet not lost, to emphasize God's vigilant preservation of the Israelites amidst their diaspora. It reads, "For lo, I will command, and I will sift the house of Israel among all nations, like as corn is sifted in a sieve, yet shall not the least grain fall upon the earth." Furthermore, Hosea 3 verses 4 and 5 detail the post-dispersion phase of the Israelites, marked by a significant estrangement from their traditional societal and religious frameworks, including the absence of monarchic leadership and religious rites. It reads, "For the Israelites will live many days without king or prince, without sacrifice or sacred stones, without ephod or household gods. Afterwards the Israelites will return and seek Lord their God. They will come trembling to the Lord and to his blessings in the last days." This scenario highlights a divine commitment to safeguarding the tribes, promising their sustained existence and hinting at a future reclamation of their identity in the last days, despite their historical obscurity. The narrative of the tribes of Israel speaks to their destined dispersion, rendering them seemingly forgotten by history for an extended period. Nevertheless, this scattering was to precede their prophetic reemergence in the latter days, a resurgence that would see them realizing the divine prophecies of becoming a great nation and a commonwealth of nations. Hosea 1 verse 10 encapsulates this promise, indicating a future where the once unacknowledged children of Israel would be recognized as the progeny of the living God, likening their number to the uncountable grains of sand by the sea. It reads, "Yet the number of the children of Israel shall be as the sand of the sea, which cannot be measured nor numbered. And it shall come to pass, that in the place where it was said unto them, Ye are not my people, there it shall be said unto them, Ye are the sons of the living God." This scripture foretells a transformative period where their identity and their divine connection as sons of God are reaffirmed, marking a significant fulfillment of God's covenant. The fulfillment of the prophecies regarding Israel's prominence on a global scale in recent times has unfolded in a manner that is absolutely amazing. Historical and cultural evidence suggests that the descendants of the 10 tribes of Israel were dispersed widely across Europe, with notable groups such as Ephraim and Manasseh establishing roots in England, which I will demonstrate. This widespread settlement across the continent reflects the vast and impactful legacy foretold in biblical prophecies, highlighting the dispersal and reemergence of Israel as a global power in the last days. By 410 AD, the Anglo-Saxons, a coalition of the Angles and Saxons, had solidly established themselves in Britain, marking a significant phase in the island's history. It should be noted that the name England is etymologically derived from Angle, which can be traced further back to Agel, historically associated with Ephraim as hinted at in Jeremiah 31 verse 18. Moreover, the origin of the term British is intriguingly theorized to stem from the Hebrew beret, meaning covenant, and ish, translating to man or people, thereby suggesting the conceptual identity of the British as the people of the covenant. This concept is deeply rooted, embodying the significant biblical reference within the very names of the British Isles. Furthermore, an etymological examination reveals a fascinating linguistic connection between the names Saxon and sons of Isaac, offering an additional layer of historical and biblical resonance. These linguistic and historical threads weave together a narrative that maps the identity, migrations, and enduring legacy of Israel's 10 tribes, illustrating their profound influence and the intricate patterns of their movements throughout history. Emanating from Ephraim emerged a commonwealth of nations that would ultimately forge the British Empire, unparalleled in scale and influence throughout history. This connection is further explored through the lineage of Joseph, with Deuteronomy 33 verse 17 depicting his descendants' might and reach. It reads, "His glory is like a firstborn bull, and his horns are like the horns of a unicorn. With them he will push the people to the ends of the earth. Such are the 10,000s of Ephraim, and such are the thousands of Manasseh." This prophetic imagery, likening Ephraim's descendants to the powerful and far-reaching horns of a unicorn, which colonized the world, is intriguingly mirrored in the modern British royal coat of arms, adorned with a unicorn symbol. The British Empire, in its zenith, governed territories vastly surpassing the Roman Empire in both land and populace, commanding nearly a quarter of the world's land surface and population. This included the planet's most bountiful regions. Its dominance was further cemented by the Royal Navy's control over critical maritime gates such as the Suez Canal, the Strait of Gibraltar, the Cape of Good Hope, the Strait of Malacca, and the Persian Gulf, epitomizing the biblical promise of Genesis 22:17, where it was foretold that Israel's descendants would possess the gates of their enemies. The legacy of the British Empire is encapsulated in the Commonwealth of Nations, comprising Britain, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, all of which share a common heritage rooted in this historical and biblical lineage. This grand narrative not only highlights the empire's territorial and demographic supremacy, but also underscores the enduring spiritual and cultural connections that trace back to the ancient tribes of Israel, fulfilling the scriptural foresight of global influence and control. Emerging from the lineage of Manasseh, descendants destined for global dominance in the last days, migrated from Britain to America, paralleling the Puritans' earlier departure from England. Inspired by the biblical Exodus, the Puritans viewed themselves as a chosen people escaping religious persecution to establish a new godly community in the New World. This belief in divine providence shaped their narrative and emphasized their role in fulfilling a God-ordained purpose. Both migrations, marked by colonization and quests for independence, culminated in the establishment of the United States, embodying the concept of manifest destiny. The United States has risen to unparalleled prominence on the international stage, wielding significant influence across a spectrum of sectors and shaping the global landscape with its strategic initiatives. Its military prowess stands unrivaled, characterized by a formidable armed forces that surpasses the combined might of the next 10 nations. This unparalleled military strength is further enhanced by a comprehensive network of global alliances and an extensive array of military bases around the world, underscoring the strategic depth and robust protective capabilities of the United States. The United States boasts the largest GDP in the world, making it the world's largest economy. This economic power is driven by a diverse and technologically advanced industrial base, encompassing sectors such as technology, finance, healthcare, consumer goods, and manufacturing. Additionally, the United States stands as the principal exporter of food worldwide, earning the designation as the world's breadbasket. This worldwide role seems to fulfill the prophetic vision articulated in Isaiah 27, verse 6 regarding the tribes of Israel, which states, "The time is coming when Jacob's descendants will take root. Israel shall blossom and bud, and fill the whole earth with fruit." The U.S. dollar is the world's foremost reserve currency, anchoring international trade and financial transactions globally. The United States boasts the world's most expansive and liquid financial markets, notably the New York Stock Exchange and NASDAQ, which together command a substantial share of global equity trading. Beyond this, the United States wields considerable influence over major international financial organizations, including the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. Within these institutions, U.S. policies and ideologies are pivotal, significantly influencing the direction of global economic governance. Culturally, the U.S. exerts a soft power that is unmatched, with American media, entertainment, and lifestyle trends gaining global traction and influencing societies worldwide. In technology and innovation, the country leads in groundbreaking research and the establishment of international standards, especially in fields such as information technology and biotechnology. This technological leadership not only drives global innovation, but also sets the pace for future advancements. Furthermore, the U.S. role in the establishment and guidance of major international bodies has facilitated the implementation of policies and projects that significantly impact the world's economic health. Through these institutions, the U.S. promotes its geopolitical and economic interests, reinforcing its position as the central figure in international relations and policy making. This multifaceted influence encompasses military, economic, cultural, technological, and institutional domains, firmly establishing the United States as the pivotal player in global affairs and a key architect of the international order. The collective contributions of Western countries, including the U.S., have been instrumental in driving global advancements in science, technology, democracy, human rights, and economic development. Repeating the biblical promise made by God to Abraham, that his descendants would become a blessing to all the world, these contributions have facilitated significant progress in various fields, from the scientific revolution and industrial revolution to the advancement of democracy and human rights. Western countries have also been at the forefront of humanitarian efforts, providing substantial aid to tackle global challenges such as hunger, health crisis, and economic development, and were pivotal in the elimination of the slave trade worldwide. The establishment of key international institutions by Western nations has furthered global governance and peacekeeping efforts, highlighting their integral role in fostering global stability and development, thereby continuing the legacy of being a blessing to the nations. The United States and Great Britain have played the primary roles in propagating the gospel of Jesus Christ across the globe, engaging in an array of endeavors including missionary initiatives, the translation and dissemination of the Bible, the creation of universities of higher learning, and the execution of charitable and humanitarian missions. The establishment of the British Bible Society in 1804 signaled the commencement of an international crusade aimed at the broad distribution of Christian scriptures, transcending denominational barriers. This pioneering venture was soon followed by the inception of the American Bible Society in 1816, further underscoring the commitment to making the Bible accessible on a global scale. Together, These organizations have been pivotal in nurturing the Christian faith worldwide, making the Scriptures readily available to a diverse audience. Their concerted efforts have significantly contributed to not only the diffusion of the gospel, but also to the spiritual enrichment and evolution of individuals and communities across the planet. In conclusion, the narrative of national greatness as foretold in the Bible, through the lineage of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, finds its profound fulfillment in the modern era. The sons of Jacob settled and established many of the modern nations in Europe. Additionally, the United States and the British-descended nations, as descendants of Manasseh and Ephraim, fulfilled the prophetic promises of a great nation and a commonwealth of nations, respectively. This historical unfolding echoes God's faithfulness as He guides the destinies of nations in alignment with His ancient promises. The intertwining of prophecy and history not only underscores the pivotal role of these nations in God's plan, but also highlights the enduring faithfulness of God in fulfilling His words across generations. As we witness the realization of these biblical prophecies in contemporary times, it serves as a testament to God's unchanging commitment to His covenant and His sovereign orchestration of history.